All right, here we are, 1.1.1. There are some key terms here that I just want to touch on and explain a little bit. This section uses the question, which is better for the environment, paper or plastic bags? And it's a good illustration and it uses that, but I want to point out a couple things. You'll notice that you could have an opinion about it, but when it starts breaking down each of the bags and how it's made and how it affects the environment, it's not about what you feel, it's about how those processes are affecting the environment. You can see that there's pros and cons for each. In order for us to get the information about the bags and how they're made, we have to use the scientific process. You see the bird being caught in the bag. You do an experiment to understand why that's happening. And as you do that experiment, you do peer review so that people are watching what happens. You have, for instance, when it talks about how many trees are being chopped down, you have an idea or a hypothesis about X number of trees being taken down for the process. You do an experiment where you count up the number of trees per pound of paper, and then you do peer review. So the scientific process is designed for us to accumulate information in a way that is reliable, I'll put a video up of the Barber of York from Saturday Night Live, and it talks about how when information wasn't reliable, and it's kind of a hilarious thing, but it's important for us to use reliable information that's true. So when it comes to reliability, there's an interesting story about a Navy, a ranger, an Army ranger, who went out and he had to pass his certification for navigation. And so he was given a compass bearing and he had to travel through 25 miles of swamp. And every once in a while he had to stop and look at the horizon and figure out where on the horizon that he needed to go to, and then he would travel through the swamp to that location. When he came out of the swamp for 25 miles, there were 3 posts in front of him 10 feet apart. And if he wasn't accurate, and if he didn't pick the right post, he was out of the Rangers. And in fact, this friend of mine was in fact had to leave the Rangers because he couldn't complete that accuracy test. So being accurate in our science is very important, and a good example of that right now is we're seeing with Roundup. There's some concern that the Roundup pesticides, which was thought to be safe, is potentially now causing cancer. So it's important as we do these experiments on life that things are accurate. So that's, remember, that would be a vocabulary word, the scientific process: observe, experiment, peer review. So that's a beginning seed for that. The other interesting thing in this section is the limits of science. And it doesn't give a name to it, but I want to give a name to it, and that's an axiom. An axiom is something that can't be tested or measured. Science is not opinion. It's about making an observation, taking a measurement, doing an experiment, and then double checking your work. There are many things that we feel strongly about, but they can't be a part of the scientific process because we can't measure them. Maybe we have an opinion about them. Maybe in some cases we might be able to experience some indirect results from it, but there's an axiom, and there are many things in life. One thing that is interesting is the whole concept of where we came from as people. And so we can't go back to the first day of our arrival. And so there are some things that are axioms. They can't be tested. They can't be measured. So that is section 1.1.1. And so as you're going forward, please pay attention to the vocabulary word axiom, and then the concept of being accurate, and then the concept of the scientific process. Those three words going forward you will see again. You'll be going ahead and taking a quiz now, and you're welcome to use your book. You're welcome to use the internet in any way you can. That this quiz is really more of a review because in fact it will be open book. Thank you.